just had to show off. I took piano lessons at their age until one day my instructor told my mother, "You're wasting your money." But I tell you, there is no waste. You girls are great. And thank you so much for playing for us. You blessed us a great deal this morning. I have 6 bosses. There are 6 people that I will do whatever they tell me. My wife, Jean. My 4 grandchildren. Can any of you identify with that? Okay. And my district superintendent. This district, Harrisburg District, is really blessed to have the leadership of the Reverend Dr. Debbie Heisley-Cato. And when she asked me to come to her office and share with me her hopes, her dreams, her vision for this congregation, and asked me to come out of retirement and devote my energies to you, it was one of those things that really grabbed me, and I thought, you know, this is the right thing to do. What was very obvious is that you matter to her. And how this church develops and that it should thrive and be a healthy church is important to her to do whatever is necessary to make it happen. And I think she deserves an affirmation from us. So, Dr. Debbie, would you stand up and let us say thank you? I think it's rather safe for me to say that most of us would rather be a part of a healthy congregation than an unhealthy church. A healthy church attracts healthy people and is a hospital for the sick who want to get well. An unhealthy church attracts unhealthy people and is a hospital for no one. In the few days that Pastor Calvin and I have been among you, you've made it clear to us that you want to be the healthiest congregation you can be. It starts with getting the right people into the right seats. Some years ago, Jim Collins published a book that became a bestseller called Good to Great. Have any of you read this book? Okay, yes, several of you have. He even wrote a sequel for the church and synagogue. And in this book, he said that if any organization, he wrote it originally for business, but he said, any organization in our society who wants to move from goodness to greatness, there are a few principles that have to be observed. And one of those is that you have to get the wrong people off the bus. You have to get the right people on the bus and get the right people into the right seats. That's a rather interesting concept. And if you think about it, I think it makes sense to you. One of the hardest things, of course, is asking the wrong people to get off the bus. And I talked to you about that last week, and some of you are pretty upset with me. And, you know, if you are, that's the way it is. But there are some people who just do not understand what it means to love and respect one another and respect and appreciate the leaders that God has given us. And there are some people that simply need to lead. But I'm glad to say there are a lot of right people in this congregation. There are people who not only are fully committed to Jesus Christ, but want to manifest the love and the kindness that he himself said would represent those who are his disciples. What Calvin and I need to work on, Pastor Calvin and I need to work on over the next months, is making sure that we get the right people into the right seats. Now, one thing that's important for all of us to understand is that Jesus gets to choose the driver. I know we think sometimes, well, that's the bishop or the district superintendent, and there is a sense in which that is certainly true. But I'm also a firm believer, after following in the footsteps of my father, my older brother, and my great-grandfather, that the Lord is himself deeply involved in not only calling people to be pastors, but in the appointment process, even in the United Methodist Church. That's why Pastor Calvin and I spent all those years in training. I invested 9 years of my life in college and graduate school to gain skills that are needed to be a pastor. But that's not all of it. I read books. I've read at least 15 books already this year on how to do ministry, books on theology, missions, even how to teach adults effectively, all kinds of things that I've been reading. I go to workshops and seminars, many of them, all over the United States, especially San Diego. Let me tell you, if you have to go to a pastor's workshop, there are a few places better than San Diego. Would you grant me that? You know, thank you. I network with other pastors who are effective. I've visited churches all over the United States that are doing effective ministry. So has Pastor Calvin. He has received high recognition in that he was chosen to be one of the teachers for this leadership development conference this past week. We spend time on our knees before God, asking God, what do you want for Wesley Church? What do you want for